Welcome everyone. Today's session is about why being a trusted advisor is even more important in the AI conversation with business leaders than ever before. And we have a great panel of friends with Doug Field from the customer side and Paul Russell from the vendor side. So this will be an interactive and wonderful discussion. And let's start, friends, by introducing yourselves.
Paul Russell, I'm just north of London now. I've worked in the tech sector for many, many years. And as Doug has said, I've been on the sort of vendor side for a number of times. I've most recently left IBM, but I also spent a lot of time in the Microsoft channel. That's how I met her. I've also been the customer side. So I've had to make the technology work as well. And now I focus on very much human-centered problem solving. And how do we make sure the technology we use is not only just going to work, but is actually going to create a viable outcome. And that's what I do now with my clients over here in the UK. And Doug is someone I met several years ago through an initiative that brought us together. And Doug and I have become very close in terms of sharing ideas and thoughts. So Doug, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I'm Doug Field. I'm the Chief Exec of the East of England Cooperative Society over in East Anglia in the UK. And we have a range of businesses. We're just shy of 400 million turnover and 3,500 colleagues. And we have food operations, funeral business, stonemason, big investment property portfolio, but where sort of technology plays its big part really is in our food business. And we're a convenience food business really with 126 food stores and soon to have a few more as well. So that's where the sort of technology plays its big part for us.
Thank you. And let's start with this conversation. And a question for Doug. How do you see AI helping your business in the coming 5 years? And how do you make use of AI today?
Well, at the moment, it's sort of embedded in a number of sort of machine learning algorithms in some of our sort of stock replenishment forecasting tools. But, you know, I think it's going to grow and grow as we look for that sort of intelligent effectiveness. We've got a big focus on the sort of our operating model, because we've got to be competitive. And in the grocery retail market in the UK is very competitive. So any advantage you can get through any technology, really, AI, obviously along with the people and the processes, will have a big impact on our business. So do you want to add, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated about AI, obviously. Technology is the heart. And I think it's and maybe Doug, you know, this kind of idea that, you know, AI gives us this kind of idea that we can speed up, we can get more done quicker, we can get better insight, we can find things we couldn't see before. I mean, is that been your experiences, or are you still trying to figure out where the impact will be the most?
I think we're still trying to figure out the impact where it'll be the most. I mean, we do, you know, the bits that are sort of interesting. We're looking at a new reporting tool and, you know, getting at some of that insight, some of the storytelling that AI can do soon of sort of interpreting numbers. That's an area we're looking at the moment. But even down to the sort of, we've also got a security business, and some areas that we're looking at is how we can use cameras to help with age-related sales. You know, one of our big challenges is colleague safety, and part of that is when people get challenged about their age, and it can create antisocial behaviour, but they can argue all they like with a camera or a computer, and protect our colleagues. So there's so many potential uses. It's just picking the right one at the right time, I think, when it's at the right level of maturity. And that's where it becomes really challenging, isn't it? Because there's lots of continually new technology, but when's it the right time at the right moment?
Doug, how do you see the role of the partner? Like the role of the partner has evolved from selling hardware, from selling stuff, and then becoming more of a consultant, senior advisor. But how do you want partners to look like in order to be useful for your organization in the future?
Well, I think there's a lot about relationships, Per, really. It's about building that long-term relationship. We want people who want to grow with our business and want to partner with us because, you know, you can always get the job done, but get the job done and building the relationships is what's going to drive success. Having those relationships, because there's always going to be bumps and challenges in the road, and that's when relationships matter, isn't it? That's when you help each other for mutual benefit. And I think that's where, you know, I think relationships are key from your internal teams to all the way through to working with partners. But having that honesty and that trust is vital, and especially when you're getting into AI and data, and we then start moving into the sort of security aspects. How do you know our data? The more we put in, the more open you are to attack and breaches. And we've got, customers are our currency. We've got over 100,000 members as a part of our organization, plus many thousand more customers. We've got to protect their interests more than our own to a degree.
So I think you're right. And I think that partners sometimes, they think that AI is just to implement, but it is the work before that is probably the most important part. So Doug and Paul, where do you see that partners are underinvested? What are the main things that they are lacking in order to be relevant for the future?
Well, if I may, I've experienced Microsoft and IBM partners, and I think the worrying trend generally was we become very shallow in our curiosity about what our customers' problems are. Now that's fed by big corporates like IBM and Microsoft feeding the stories because they can do this research, of course. And a lot of partners will just hook onto those stories and almost at a very shallow level use them with customers like Doug in the hope that will just make a connection, as Doug said, create that trust and relationship, and hope that they'll get a piece of business. And of course they will. But what they probably won't get is the depth of relationship, the high level of trust and ongoing business, which is clearly what they want to do. And I think the one thing I would say to partners is how do you get deeper in your curiosity about the challenges Doug is facing? Because sound bites are just going through the roof right now. And everyone's latching on them. And the partner that survives, I think, and it'd be interesting, your take on this, Doug, are the ones that have skilled salespeople and consultants that have a deeper curiosity to understand what is the unmet need that you have. I mean, you've got so many opportunities for it, but what is the real unmet need? A bit like Airbnb and Uber, that type of thing. How do we find those unmet needs in our customers, as opposed to just skimming along, which is desperately unfair probably to the partner community. But I've been in that world and I've seen it, and Doug, I'd be interested to see what your take is on that.
I think you're absolutely right, Paul, and we've talked many a time about one of the key challenges in our business, never mind with the sort of partners, is asking the right questions and because if you're not asking the right questions, you're not going to get the right insight and the right actions to drive your business forward. And I think, it's a challenge internally, never mind externally. And I think when you start working with partners, getting the right questions to drive your business forward. And one of our challenges is always with systems and how you work with them is sometimes too much choice can drive inaction. It can drive perilous sort of, I can't remember the phrase, but about drives decision paralysis by just having too much information, too much data, and AI can contribute to that, as in a trust. So asking the right question and drilling down to get that depth, as you say, that depth of curiosity, what is really, really good to make the difference? Because we can consume information. There's more information than the human can take in at the moment, but how is it that makes it actionable and can really drive action? That's our perennial challenge, and that is only solved by a deep knowledge of the product you're selling and the right curiosity to address challenges.
So is AI a path to get inside the C-suite and have discussions with the senior leadership?
Yeah, it is, Per, but again, it comes down to AI is as good as the question you ask it or the prompt you give it, isn't it? And how do we make sure we're learning the skills to ask the right question? And, what you don't want is to create confirmation bias by asking. If you ask the question in the right way, it's like, and we talk about it a lot with lawyers, it's probably a bad example with a partner basis. How do you exit can we exit the contract is a very different question to how we exit the contract. And the simple few changes in words can make a massive difference to the answer you get and drive you down a path or a road that can lead you to a dead end or not get the outcome you're actually looking for.
And if I may, just on that, I think this is a fallacy in the partner community. I think it's a fallacy in business generally, is that by asking the questions that Doug is talking about, let's call them deeper questions. There is a fallacy that people believe that will slow us down. If we're going to ask all these detailed questions, it's going to take longer. Meetings will take longer. Proposals will take longer. CRM systems will slow down. Everything will just take longer. So let's not do that. Let's ask these real, superficial, shallow level questions, because we'll do them really quickly. We'll probably get AI to do them for us even. And therefore we show that we're dynamic or agile and we're moving forward. The fallacy is that we run right over these gaps of opportunity and you don't see them. And so it's a middle ground. And the smartest partners and the best retail companies and the best everybody are the ones that can balance the speed of competition versus the depth of curiosity. And there are partners out there who can clearly do that. Hubby Dog, that's your world as well. But there's many who don't do that. And I think there's some help they need to be able to get that kind of balance correct, if that makes sense.
And what I've been thinking about is that now that everyone is talking about AI, both from the vendor side, from customer side, and from partner side, regardless of ecosystem, are we forgetting that great IT is not only about AI? Are there other areas that are kind of boring because they are not part of the AI hype, but are super important?
Absolutely, Per. If you, I've been taught many years ago that technology, AI included, is about people, processes, and technology. You've got to have the right people with the right capabilities to take advantage of the technology, and you've got to have the right process in place to make it effective. Technology is never the answer unless it's combined with the right capabilities and processes and people. So I think it's really important to know that's an area, that sort of human side is an area Paul excels in as well.
Well, I've found a lot. And again, my time at IBM really crystallized this, which was the role of AI, and IBM, were one of the big leaders, of course, was his behavior. How do we understand? Artificial intelligence is artificial. It's there because it's a mirror of human intelligence. So, we need to understand our behavior, like Doug's example of behavior of people coming into a store. Are they underage to get alcohol? What are they going to steal food from his store? So understanding people's behavior is at the heart of everything we do, and AI can help. But that doesn't replace the need for us to take more time to understand the behaviors we're talking about. And one of the challenges we're facing, I think, is we're locked into, and Doug's mentioned bias, we're locked into, well, we've done a survey and, 80% of people over there do this, so we're just going to go with that. And it creates blind spots, which all produce bias in a negative way. It damages diversity. So all the other things that we talk about really get harmed along the way. And AI can be friend or foe in no matter how we use this. So I think it's super critical for partners and their teams to educate people on the language we just talked about. Because at no point have we talked about AI and the ins and outs of the technology, which of course we can get trained on and become super good at. It's absolutely everything to do with human vulnerability and human behavior. And, Doug is in a business, it's all about humans. Doug always told me when I first met him, I think, Doug, you said to me, we feed people, we send them on holiday, and, we bury them in the ground. And I kind of think, perfect. How does AI help Doug do that better, more effectively, and, pleasing his customers?
Wonderful. That's life cycle, Doug.
Yeah, absolutely. But, without getting dark and cynical, but you could see that if you asked AI, and this is probably quite a negative example, but if you could ask AI, what food do you need to sell to drive business to your funeral business, you could probably get a answer because there's no human side to it, is there? So, and then, or do you ask it to have, or do you say sell more food to prolong people's lives? The questions you ask has a massive impact to how we'll interact if we're not careful, if we don't have the right guardrails and safety nets in place.
And in your organization, have you created like a framework for things like that? Your examples are like really telling, but there are probably other minor things that are relevant to have a framework around.
We need one. The Co-op group, who were sort of part of the Co-op ecosystem in the UK, have got an ethical data framework. So we're looking to sort of mirror that approach. But, this is something, keeping up with all this changes and doing it. We're we're not there yet. We're on that journey, but we're not there yet. And I think it's we're not necessarily using data in that way yet, but we do need to. We've got to make better use of our data to drive better business performance.
Yeah. So going a little bit on the negative side, Paul and Doug, where do you see from a business leadership the risks with AI?
Way back when, when you and I started working together, we had the sort of early days of cloud, and then before that we had kind of web, and we've always had these shifts. And every time we've had a shift, we've speeded up our thinking and we've become more confident. And that's a very human thing, right? Of course, it's fight or flight. And now AI is the new kind of shift. And that confidence is going further and further. All fine, of course. But our brains aren't built to cope with all of the thinking we need to make sure we're not introducing risk and threat. And my fear is that from a partner and from a customer conversation, we, for the best of possible reasons, we just forget the need to say things like, are we making the right decision? Do we understand our problem enough? What if we tried this? All of that very human conversation that we know we did. Have we got rid of them in the need for speed? And speed is a competition, partners have to survive and Doug has to survive, we all do. And are we forgetting that? And I think if we do that, the risk is we're going to get some poor business decisions on all sides of the fence. And we're going to get some really big, nasty things going on. Hopefully we'll get some great things as well to balance it. But I do worry that we our overconfidence is going to hurt us a little.
And I think to Paul's point, there's a quote I've been using a lot recently about the pace of change is the fastest it's ever been, but also the slowest it's ever going to be. And I think that really sort of sums up the speed things are moving. And when you go fast, you break things, don't you? You see, the fastest runners in the world are forever tweaking their hamstrings. Nothing, that's the human body. And I think machines are similar. If you go too fast, you increase the risk of breaking things.
I think it's no secret in the English language, at least, agile and fragile are very similar words. And you don't have to go far to suddenly find things fragile. We've seen that in this country and generally around the world. Things that we've done that are agile suddenly become super fragile. A tanker gets stuck in the Suez Canal, and suddenly, the UK for sure, we don't get any more imports because it's all on the boat. And so understanding that and making sure that we help Doug and others use AI to make them anti-fragile. Because I think that's the thing that we don't talk a lot about is how do we make people anti-fragile, which means that we can survive, we can cope, and we can get through. And if AI can help with that, fantastic. If it can't and it contributes to fragility, then I think we are going to find ourselves maybe thinking, well, have we made the right decision here? And I think understanding that better as we talk to each other will be a really powerful thing for people today.
So Jay McBain, the senior analyst for Canalys, he told a group last week that AI is today considered a product from most vendors, and it's like something like kind of standalone or something that you buy as an add-on. And his vision is that this is going to become a feature, that it will be a natural thing, part of everyday life, part of like everything we do. What do you think about that? Is that the way it is going, or will it take very long or never?
Well, if I start Per, we're seeing it we're looking for a new reporting tool, and AI is built into some of those solutions now. I think you're seeing it on your personal devices, aren't you? Or on this about how AI, even a PDF reader now can have AI-inspired summaries, can't it? So I think it is growing to be part of the norm, but is it there yet? No. Are we certainly moving in that way? I think we are, definitely. And I think it'll only continue to do so. But sometimes these things can only move at the slowest pace. And I think then you start getting into the education system and how people start doing their schoolwork. Where should they be learning how to ask the right questions, or rote learning something that they can get by asking the right question? It's it starts becoming sort of can get really deep very quickly about how you educate young people for the future, a world which none of us can comprehend, I imagine, because it doesn't exist and it's going to be so different to what we've ever been used to.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm just echoing Doug, thinking about I've been talking to some young people at schools recently, and you ask them about AI, and they sort of go, yeah, but then they'll talk about music and TV and they're talking about an outcome, and AI is delivering that to them. So this idea of tightly coupled and loosely coupled are going to be where, AI is just embedded. You don't even know it. Cars probably, we're going to be the early adopters with, driverless cars and maybe that's the thing, versus loosely coupled where you kind of know it's there. And, as Doug said, it might be in a Microsoft product. You can see it, you can click on a button and you can say, I want it to write my LinkedIn post. And some people will, some people won't. So we'll go through that natural game of tennis, as we have with all technology, of course. And I think it's the tightly coupled AI. I think it's going to be really interesting. That's where the money is, I guess, for partners and for Doug, where it's tightly coupled in a business process that no one knows it's there. And that really then puts pressure on the trust and the governance because, it's there and we don't even know it's there. So is it doing the right thing? And how do we know when it's not? So I often talk about these two different aspects of AI because we kind of lump them all in one big bucket at the moment. And I'm not sure that's the way it will be. So yeah, it's and education's key for sure.
I think that was a wonderful analysis from both of you. And I think that you are spot on. And partners really need to pay attention about that. It's about how you're going to use it, the outcome. Thank you very much, Doug Field, Paul Russell. This was a wonderful conversation and so pleased that you were part of the iNext Leadership Series, talking about AI from a leadership perspective. And you are seasoned leaders. You know what you're talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.